Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, we get to do a show about what we've learned this off season or this fall camp. And so I was thinking about this. I was like, man, it feels like we've learned a lot over the last couple of weeks. It has been an eventful last first couple of weeks of fall camp.
Yeah, specifically what we've learned about Arthur Smith's offense and what the Buckeyes will look like when Julian Sayin and his guys are out on the field. And one of the things that Arthur Smith was asked about was like, man, you guys sure are under center a lot, when we've seen you out there. And he's like, well, we can also run the pistol. We can also do shotgun. So he had this kind of smirk, but it's something that we had heard about and talked about on the Buckeye Insiders message board as well. Just like there's a lot of under center right now, which went away for a long time and came back maybe a little bit when Mike Yurcich came back, and then came back a little bit more with like Chip Kelly, and it's kind of just gradually coming back. And now I don't know if it's going to be 60% under center, 40% shotgun, or what. What I do know is like when you see it, it won't be like out of the blue anymore. It won't be like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while. And I think that's number one. The first thing that we've learned is you're going to see a lot of under center from Ohio State. Now, generally, that's going to be one back, and then maybe a tight end near the backfield. Maybe it's like an H back motioning around in say 12 personnel, or it may just be a single back and 11 personnel. But much more under center this year, and they can do some different things out of that.
Yeah, that feels like generally, and this is really painting with a broad brush here, but generally, if you're in shotgun, you're probably more, it's either the spread run, which was, you saw a lot from, during the Urban Meyer era, or it's kind of more of a pass first thing. It just, when you have the back next to the quarterback, it really kind of limits to a certain degree how much you can do in the run game, where the back is going to either have to cut back or he's going to go across the quarterback, and you're a little more predictable in that way. Under center, yeah, the argument against it is, well, then if the quarterback has to turn his back to the defense. And so, when they were in shotgun, we heard all the arguments against doing under center, but based on the kind of running that we're expecting them to be doing this year, which is just a lot more downhill running, the running back can go to either side of the quarterback as he's taking as he's getting ready to take the handoff. You're going forward. You're not going side to side. It's something that I think maybe is a little bit of a hint that not just the fact that they're going to probably try and run the ball more, but they're going to run the ball maybe in a little bit of a different way, and then throw the ball off of the run game a little more than they have in the past.
Yeah, and that lining up in shotgun is one of the reasons, like Chris Alt, the former Nevada head coach who sort of invented the pistol, the reason he did that is because he wanted some I formation ability to like not lean one way or the other with the running back. So it's like you're still in a sort of semi shotgun, but you've got the back behind you so that he can go either way and there's no tendency or whatever. And certainly, you're under center, you can do that same sort of thing. And when you've got that downhill stuff going, leads to some very good play action, which is what we've seen in fall camp so far. And that's play action down the field. That's play action over the middle on some longer developing routes. You've got to have the offensive line that can hold for that stuff, and not hold, but, protect, I guess I should say, not get called for holding for that stuff, and allow those longer developing plays. And with the play action, you kind of free some people there. So that's one of the things that they really like, is just building off of the running game, Tom. The other thing that we're seeing with Julian Sayin, who is now has been given the opportunity to have two plays and go to the line. Now, these are all scripted practices, but when it becomes time to do this sort of stuff, they can't move as slowly anymore. If you're going to give your quarterback two plays that he's going to have to go to the line of scrimmage and see. So the whole operation has to move faster, which it should be, I don't know, music to Ohio State fans' ears that things are going to be moving faster on offense simply because they have to. If you're going to give the quarterback more time or you're going to give him some decision making to do at the line of scrimmage, you can't let him get there with 6 seconds to go on the clock.
Yeah, and that was something he was asked about and kind of like, yep, yeah, definitely. You have to give him time to get up to the line, look at what's happening, make a decision, and then communicate out that decision to everyone. That is going to take time. And, they cut off the helmet communication with, I think 15 seconds left on the play clock. So, you're kind of on your own at that point. And so from when that play clock is at 15 until it hits 0, that is Julian Sayin time. And Julian Sayin is the only one who's in charge. So that is going to be very important for them to get up there. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be snapping the ball any faster, because that's his time where he's going to be getting that stuff done. But you don't want the play clock going down to 3 or 2 every single time, because then the defense can sort of tee off. If the play clock's at 1, the defense knows either you're snapping the ball or you're going to get a delay of game penalty. So they can really tee off on that. You've got to get him up the line even faster. Now, I think with an experienced play caller like Arthur Smith, this is probably going to be a lot easier to have, to be thinking a few moves ahead than it was for Brian Hartline, who was doing it for the first time ever last year. Arthur Smith is probably going to be able to think ahead like a chess player, and I'm going to do this, but then they're going to do this. And then if this pass is complete and it's 1st and 10, or it's 2nd and 2, or, then we're going to do this. Or if it's incomplete and it's 2nd and 10, then we're going to do that. And you can kind of think ahead a little bit in a way that it might be hard, in the same way that for freshman players, the game moves kind of quick. I would imagine for first-time play callers, the game is probably moving pretty quickly. So for Arthur Smith, he can probably be thinking ahead a little more, get the stuff in a little faster, and then give Julian Sayin more time where he still, he'll have 10, 15 seconds, but not necessarily be right at the end of the play clock at that point.
When I asked Arthur Smith about that and getting stuff moving quicker so that Julian can look at stuff, he said, one of the things he said is cadence is a weapon. And last year it wasn't. Now, he didn't say last year it wasn't, but he mentioned, cadence is a weapon. And then he went on to say, if you're consistently snapping the ball with 2 seconds left, the defense is going to come after you all the time. And that's when I asked if that was an issue in the postseason last year. And he kind of smiled and I wasn't here. I'm not going to answer that question respectfully because I wasn't here. But when you're saying cadence is a weapon, it wasn't last year. And so that's another change that is going to come to the Ohio State offense this year, is that it will move differently. It's not going to be up tempo. There will be some moments of tempo, but there will not be 80 snaps in a game for Ohio State unless they're just picking up 4 yards at a time and never get off the field, that sort of thing. But it's going to move in a way that isn't as predictable, at least when the ball is being snapped. So I think that's another key for this. Back in the springtime, we saw a lot of quick passing. They talked about quick passing and the yards after catch, which has been a focus and continues to be a focus. One of the things we've seen more of in fall camp is the downfield aspect of the passing game as well. And it was interesting to watch it in the spring and not really see any of it. And it's like, where is this? You're asking your receivers to do a lot of blocking on this short stuff. And now it seems we're starting to see the full passing game open up as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a very logical progression for a first year under a new offensive coordinator. You've got, you're going to install the basic stuff. And you sort of work your way up to. You're not starting with the annexation of Puerto Rico on the first day of spring practice. So, that was one of those things where we saw it, we talked about it a bunch in the spring, but didn't do boy, is this concerning that this is happening? Because it felt like this was sort of the logical next step. And now they've kind of taken that next step. And I think that has also kind of answered in some ways some of the questions we had about the wide receiver unit, where do they have a guy who can stretch the field? Because we really didn't see it in the spring. But it wasn't that they were trying to do it all that much and they were failing. It was just we didn't see it. So we've talked a bunch about Devin McCuin this month because it feels like Devin McCuin could be that guy, either in terms of the catch and then yards after catch, or in terms of the run real far downfield and then throw the football to him kind of role. So yeah, I don't know that this has moved the needle for me very much in terms of expectations or, oh boy, it's going to be bombs away this year by any means, any more than I thought this spring, oh boy, they're going to be throwing everything within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage, like, a JJ McCarthy offense. He wasn't, I don't think this has really changed that much in terms of my expectations, but it has certainly been something different. And it's been, you're seeing a more well-rounded version of what's probably going to be coming in September.
With, I think there's some depth offensively, and they're probably going to play more depth with running backs and tight ends and receivers, frankly. Those are the position coaches' calls on who plays. I do wonder how much Arthur Smith is involved with some of those guys in terms of, we'd like to see Legend out here. We'd like to see Chris Henry out here. Those sorts of things where if I'm calling stuff, it's for specific groupings of players. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of develops. And I wonder how much, say he's the offensive coordinator, he can have whatever say he wants offensively. Generally, it's left to the position coaches, but certainly he's going to want to know who's coming in when plays are being called. And so it'll be interesting to watch that develop. But that's basically what I wanted to talk about with Arthur Smith and what we've learned. Anything else that you wanted to throw out there?
I think that kind of covers the basics of kind of main takeaways here. But don't worry, we will have, if we think of anything else, there will be another podcast coming in a few hours.
Well, and you've also got some X's and O's stuff that you're going to be talking with Ross Fulton and Michael Pettit, perhaps about the offense, Tom, and Arthur Smith.
Perhaps.
I'm just throwing that out there. I can't be doing both shows. All right, that's you. But if you'd like to talk some X's and O's, you can do that at BuckeyeInsiders.com. We've got a full thread dedicated to that. It is always being added to, and that's not your thing, and you just want to talk recruiting, we're doing that. If you just want to talk football right now because recruiting is crazy to you and you just want to talk about the team, we are absolutely doing that as well over at BuckeyeInsiders.com. As we say, it is the absolute best way to support what we do. And plus, it's fun for you, fun for us. We'd love to see you there. So that will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.